3, 2, 1. I'm out of ideas. We are the 18th of December, Friday, almost weekend, and getting closer to Christmas Day. And I am standing up right now because for today's bag I really have to maneuver this in. It is the heaviest thing we had, heavier than the camera I had a couple of days ago. I'll put this here like this. And yes, of course it did not fit inside of the bag. So I will remove the cover and unveil today's items. Two items, this thing where we have a look right now, and this thing where we'll have a look in just a minute. I will put this away for now because this is quite heavy. Now, what are we talking today about? Well, this thing, let me bring this in. Yes, and now I can sit down and inspect this thing together with you. Well, what is this? I recuperated this thing years ago. Saved it from the trash because this thing is probably out of the 60s or early 70s. It's a very old device. It is a strand electric cloud wheel, I would call it. Now, nowadays, when you go to a concert, you have millions of colorful lights, computer controlled moving heads and stuff like that. Well, in the time, of course, that was that was not the case. You had to come up with something else. But still today, those moving heads you see on stage, you know, those big lighting fixtures that are robotized, that can move and project certain patterns and colors, they still use some sort of the same principles. What is, for example, a color wheel? So you have like a metal wheel, and I can show you this. I found one, I had built it out some years ago. So inside of a moving head, for example, in a simple moving head, you would find something like this, which is a wheel with cutouts, and you have dichro filters. I mess this word up all the time. These are basically little glass plates that are coated with a coating to block certain wavelengths of light. So you can generate different colors with it. And in the middle you would have a stepper motor that can step through positions. So when you have a light source behind it, you can project different colors or shapes, for example. In that case, you would have like a closed wheel with some holes in there, or patterns that can be projected with a lens in front of it. I can show you this just by now with a little torch lamp here. I can put this here, and you see when I put this in front of it, you see different colors up here. So this would simply turn, and this would turn quite quickly, so you could like change the color in like a fraction of a second. Of course, this thing is like the grandfather of this technology, because nowadays you would have a DMX protocol, for example, to pilot or control these fixtures. In this case, you would control this fixture with that. You plug it in, you unplug it, or you put it onto a switch pack or something to control it, because this is basically very simple. You can open this hatch here. We can move this a little bit over here. Very simple thing. I can zoom even in a little bit so you can see this better. Can I move this a little bit further up? Maybe like this. You have a simple gear motor with one revolution per minute. You have a gear here that goes to an axle. And here you have a little wheel that spins this plate, which is attached to this glass wheel that sits in here. So this basically is a huge glass wheel, and they coated it, and I don't know how this technique is called in English, but it's some sort of a vaporization process to get the coating onto a glass sheet. And then you can spin it with this motor, and you can even adjust the speed by moving this little part up and down on this wheel. And you can achieve different speeds with it. This hasn't been moved for the last 40 years. I think when I would try to move it, it risks to break. So I will just leave this alone for now. We have a little instruction in here how to adjust the speed of it. Can I get this somehow in a way that we can read it? Maybe I can use my little torch to lighten this up. And there you can maybe if you are interested, you can stop here and read it. These are the instructions, the simple instructions how to operate this thing. Now let's close the hatch. What else do we have on this fixture? Let me zoom out first so we have a better look to see what we have. We have this adapter here. So this is basically a strand holder. You can pop this thing into a lighting fixture for a Fresnel studio spot, for example. So you shine light through here, and you can attach this with the set screw here, and then it shines through the well, of course, the glass, the glass thing and the lens. You have a lens. You can. This is quite an interesting thing to attach it, because this is just a spring that holds it in place. You can take this out, and you see you have like a little safety chain, a screw, and you can adjust focus and focus it to your backdrop, for example. And then you have that glass wheel in here that basically has this coating on it. And we can try this out. I prepared this special device here to hold this up a little bit, and then I will remove this piece of tape so we have the full source of light, and we can put this underneath here, and when I turn it on, you see the clouds. And let's plug this in for now and make this thing spin. I think it's, yes, now it's spinning. It's spinning very slowly, of course, because yeah, I mean, you probably don't want the clouds to move too fast. Of course, as we saw, we can adjust the speed of it, which I'm not bothering doing for now. Also, I don't want really to touch this thing, but there's a piece of something on there. Well, but you see the principle. So you have your cloud projector out of the 60s. Let's put back in the lens, and let's bring in the next item, which is a little bit more complex. See, this is a 3-inch lens. It says quite a big thing. Quite heavy also, though. The whole thing weighs about probably 6 pounds or 4, well, probably 7 pounds or something. And yeah, the focus of my camera does not really like direct light sources, so when I cover this up, it should be back in focus. Yes, it will focus. All right, let's unplug this, and let's get to the second item. Let me move this out of the way and bring in the big gun. Let's move this out of the way as well. Now, what do we have here? This is what they called in the branch, they called it a city color. This is a outdoor light projector used for, you know, when you want to light up a building in certain colors. These are weatherproof, and we bought a bunch of these. They were installed for years, and it's kind of a miracle that they still are working, because these are not the original city color, because city color was a kind of a brand. Well, I think it was Strand or some company came up with city color projectors, and this is a cheap copy, a Chinese cheap copy of it. Let me move this out of the way, because I don't know if it's worth it to open this part here. If you want, so let me know in the comments. Maybe I'll make a separate video, because this contains the electronics, because you can control this thing via DMX. So you have 2 cables, DMX cables come out to daisy chain those projectors, and basically in here sits like a transformer and a DMX board to control what's in here. Now let's turn this around and have a look how this thing works. And as I said, these things are heavy. They are not meant to be put on a bench like this. Now, they work a bit different, and that's why I wanted to show you this. This is not like a wheel that spins, but these are like wings that are moving in there. Quite an interesting thing. As I said, you would install these in the front of a big building or something, you know, to light up the building in different colors. Nowadays, you would do this with LEDs. Those fixtures are way smaller, way lighter, way cheaper and easier to build and maintain. And yes, so the analog version of it would be this, and they are still around everywhere. I mean, this is still a thing, but as I said, this is like a very cheap Chinese version of it. And as I said, we bought 10 of these, and they are still working today. let's open this thing up and have a look in there before I turn it on, because I think when we project light straight into the camera like this, it might not be ideal. Now, can I? Yes, I can. I can open this without a screwdriver, because these things have been opened for inspection. And let's open the hatch of this thing. And now we see what's in here. Now, looks quite messy, but basically there is some sort of a logic behind it. So, yes, we have a high voltage power supply here. I should move this maybe like that, because I really want to avoid touching those caps. They are probably still charged, because I turned this thing on not too long ago. Now, as you can see, it still looks quite okay in there. So these gaskets seem to do their job, because as I said, this thing was installed for probably 6 years at the outdoors. Now, what do we have? We have a high voltage power supply, because this is an or HMI bulb. So we need some high voltage to light this thing. And then we have some dichro filters. And other than I said before, they don't use these wheels. They use those wings that can close like that. And again, closer here, you see how this works. You have 2 filter halves that can be moved individually in front of the light source to change color. You have 3 filters. In this case, it's CMY. So you can change and adjust them in a way to have all sorts of color displayed. Yeah, and that's what you can do over DMX. So you can do this remotely, and quite interesting and quite different than the regular the regular RGB or color wheel color mixture. Now, of course, we want to see how this looks when I plug this in, and therefore I probably need to bring down the exposure. Let me get up and turn this down to a point we don't see much anymore, which is fine, because now I will plug it in and we see the bulb starting up, and we see that the stepper motors will do its startup sequence. So they will go to every position. There we go. And you see, this is quite noisy. Like compared to an LED fixture nowadays, this is super noisy. Now we see better what's going on. So you see that it is now sequencing through a pre-programmed pattern. So this is white. Now we have dark blue. And then it moves to blue, I think, or yeah, turquoise. Now you can see how this looks on a surface of a building, or a surface in general. This, by the way, is I think it's a 250 watt light bulb in there. Now here you can see the fixture out of a bit different angle. So you see how these wings are shifting in front of the light source. And this is because this will be able, or enables you to to mix colors. When you have a gobo wheel or color wheel, you usually have fixed colors. There are color wheels, however, that are have a gradient coded onto it, so it goes from white to cyan, for example. But in this form factor, these wings are probably the easiest way to achieve color mixing in CMY. Of course, these fixtures are still around today. Even they are getting replaced sooner or later with LED fixtures, because they are easier, of course, no more moving parts in there, and voltage regulated, so very easy to control. And of course this uses way more current, way more power. In my opinion, pretty interesting stuff, those city color, CMY color mixing light fixtures. And I'm pretty happy that these still work, because they will come in pretty handy probably for my backyard on Christmas this year. Now, let's have a quick look. What do we have tomorrow, the 19th of December? We have this bag. Finally, something smaller and lighter than the last 3 days. This easily fits on the bench for once. And yes, we will see this tomorrow on the 19th on Saturday. I hope you enjoyed, and I wish you a nice evening. And I see you tomorrow. Until then, see ya!